The Colombian conflict began in the mid-1960s and is a low-intensity asymmetric war between Colombian governments, paramilitary groups, crime syndicates and far-left guerrillas such as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, and the National Liberation Army, ELN, fighting each other to increase their influence in Colombian territory. Two of the most important international actors that have contributed to the Colombian conflict are multinational companies and the United States. It is historically rooted in the conflict known as La Violencia, which was triggered by the 1948 assassination of populist political leader Jorge Eliezer Gaitan, and in the aftermath of United States-backed strong anti-communist repression in rural Colombia in the 1960s that led liberal and communist militants to reorganize into FARC. The reasons for fighting vary from group to group. The FARC and other guerrilla movements claim to be fighting for the rights of the poor in Colombia to protect them from government violence and to provide social justice through communism. The Colombian government claims to be fighting for order and stability, and seeking to protect the rights and interests of its citizens. The paramilitary groups claim to be reacting to perceived threats by guerrilla movements. Both guerrilla and paramilitary groups have engaged in drug trafficking and terrorism. All of the parties engaged in the conflict have been criticized for numerous human rights violations. According to a study by Colombia's National Center for Historical Memory, 220,000 people have died in the conflict between 1958 and 2013, most of them civilians, 177,307 civilians and 40,787 fighters, and more than 5 million civilians were forced from their homes between 1985 to 2012, generating the world's second-largest population of internally displaced persons, IDPs. 16.9% of the population in Colombia has been a direct victim of the war. 2.3 million children have been displaced from their homes, and 45,000 children killed, according to national figures cited by UNICEF. In total, 1 in 3 of the 7.6 million registered victims of the conflict are children, and since 1985, 8,000 minors have disappeared. A special jurisdiction for peace will be created to investigate, clarify, prosecute and punish serious human rights violations and grave breaches of international humanitarian law which occurred during the armed conflict. Its purpose would be to satisfy victims' right to justice. A special unit was created to search for persons deemed as missing within the context of and due to the armed conflict. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos said that a peace deal with the FARC by July 20, 2016 would end the conflict with this organization if the talks which started in 2012 were successfully concluded. On June 23, 2016, the Colombian government and the FARC rebels signed a historic ceasefire deal, bringing them closer to ending more than 5 decades of conflict. However, on October 2, 2016, a majority of the Colombian public rejected the deal. In October 2016, Juan Manuel Santos was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to bring the country's more than 50-year-long civil war to an end. The Colombian government and the FARC on November 24 signed a revised peace deal, and the revised agreement was to be submitted to Congress for approval. The House of Representatives unanimously approved the plan on November 30, a day after the Senate also gave its backing.